On June 8, 793, the sea near the coast of Lindisfarne churned restlessly. Longships bearing dragon-prowed bows cut through the waters. Fierce warriors, clad in leather and metal, gripped their weapons, eyes fixed ahead. It was the dawn of an era of raid and conquest. The monastery at Lindisfarne, a symbol of Christian learning, found itself vulnerable. As the Norsemen stormed its sacred halls, monks scrambled. Books and relics were seized, treasures looted, and the tranquility shattered. The cries of terror echoed across the turbulent North Sea. In their retreat, the longships carried not only wealth, but tales of riches and unguarded lands. This daring incursion into the British Isles was just the beginning. Word of their success spread back to Scandinavia, igniting a fiery ambition among the seafaring Norse. By autumn of 793, the English coast stood on high alert. Watchtowers were manned and towns fortified. Chronicles recorded the sense of dread where the sight of distant sails could mean impending carnage. Yet, the Viking threat remained eerily silent, lurking beyond the horizon. With the onset of 794, other settlements braced themselves. Monasteries along the coasts fortified their defenses. Despite preparations, the land held its breath, knowing the Norsemen's return was inevitable. The sea remained quiet, but the fear of the dragon-headed ships lingered. Later that year, a raid in Northumbria affirmed fears. Merciless and swift, the Norse warriors ravaged coastal villages. These attacks further cemented their reputation as relentless seaborne marauders. The northern warriors carved a path of terror, etched into the very fabric of those lands. In June 795, at the northwest Irish coastline, longships sailed into the tranquil waters of Rathlin Island. The Norse warriors swiftly disembarked, their axes gleaming under the midday sun, ready to raid the unsuspecting monastic community. On a misty morning in March 796, the Isle of Skye found itself besieged. The monastic outpost at Snizort River's mouth became a target, as Vikings overran the settlement, plundering sacred relics and livestock with ruthless efficiency. Later in 796, the violence reached far north Scotland. In a matter of hours, Iona's Abbey, once a place of serene study and prayer, lay in ruins. Viking ships heavy with silver and cattle sailed away amid the orange glow of dawn. Amid summer 797, on the coast of Kintyre, the monastic community braced for what was becoming inevitable. As horned helmets appeared on the horizon, the monks hastily secured their sacred artifacts, but the invaders showed no mercy. In early 798, Ardmore in southern Ireland experienced its turn with Viking wrath. Warriors surged ashore, pillaging the proto-monastery and abducting captives, while the smoke from burning huts signaled their departure. Late in 798, Annagassan, a key trading port near Dundalk, saw Norsemen exploit its thin defenses. As they breached the settlement, evening descended. The raiders departed swiftly under moonlight, leaving devastation behind. In 799, the monasteries of the Hebridean island of Iona trembled at Viking sightings. Longships dotted like dread ominous shadows, raiders stormed beaches, hefting axes, screams echoing in the chill air. 801 witnessed a chilling raid in southern England's Dorset. Charmouth saw Viking swords clash against hastily mustered local forces. Smoke billowed above thatched roofs amid chaotic defense, panic weaving through the village. On a grim day of 802, Iona suffered again. Raiders returned to lichen destruction. Monks prepared but fell under relentless blows. Sacred relics plundered, the enclave shattered again. Spring 805 saw the island of Lindisfarne revisited by terror. Though rebuilt, it crumbled anew as Norse raiders surged ashore, desecrating sanctuaries, setting fear anew into stone walls. In autumn 806, Northern Ireland's Bangor faced sudden onslaught. The raiders darkened the bay, swift and brutal, breaching stone defenses, cloisters set ablaze as survivors vanished into wooded hills. 809's dead of winter, Monk Wearmouth Jarrow convents in Northumbria succumbed to sea wolves' winter strike. Norsemen seized treasures from frozen halls, echoing the chapel's shattered peace. In 810, Viking terror in Wales struck Anglesy's Monach Isles. Monasteries aflame, shrieking gales carried cries as pillagers ripped through sacred lands, escaping with spoils, leaving ashes of faith. In 811, the quiet earth northwest of Charlemagne's empire trembled. On the Seine's surging banks a fleet emerged. Viking sails billowed, urging their prows towards Rouen. Rolf the Walker, towering and indomitable, led the charge. People scrambled, panic gripped Normandy's heart. By 814, whispers of Charlemagne's death reached Scandinavia. Seizing the moment, Vikings under King Godfred eyed richer lands. Their eyes fell upon Frisia. Merchants' cries of distress mingled with the clangor of axes as warriors plundered towns, leaving smoldering ruins in their wake. 815 saw peace shattered in Ireland. Viking dragon ships appeared in Waterford's estuary. Ingeman led his forces ashore, where Norse brutality clashed with Irish valor. Blood and mud mingled as skirmishes raged, leaving villagers bereft and fields barren. In 820, the sudden storming of the Loire Valley caught Carolingian defenders off guard. Bjorn Ironside spearheaded a bold assault, outmaneuvering local forces. Villages fell, and monasteries, rich with untouched spoils, echoed with the cries of fate-stricken monks. 822 marked a black year for England's east coast as merciless invaders caught East Anglia unprepared. Townsfolk of Dunwich remembered the Northmen's rampage. Together, the North Sea and Godred's marauders, swift and ruthless, swallowed ships and livelihoods along the shore. Amid 825 turmoil, Irish abbeys bore the brunt of Norsemen thirsting for conquest. Armagh crumbled as Ead, renowned Norse chieftain, showed no mercy. Pagan banners fluttered among relics, echoes of the firelight illuminating cultural devastation. By 830, Viking raids intensified along the English Channel. At Flanders, veteran raiders, hardened by years of conquest, forged deeper inland. The relentless crack of Norse weapons echoed through forests, leaving paths of razed hamlets as they established new Viking settlements. In 841, the River Seine flowed silently under the shadow of Viking longships approaching Paris. As the vessels docked, their ornate dragon-head prows glinted in the dim morning light, anticipating the chaos to unfold. Ragnar Lothbrok prepared his warriors for the assault, swords sharpened, warrior resolve unyielding. The summer of 842 saw the Vikings lay waste to the city's outskirts. Smoke spiraled from torched villages, with flames painting the sky a hellish orange. Villagers fled, seeking refuge behind Paris's still unbreached walls, as Norsemen plundered the bounty of a ravaged countryside. March 845 bore witness to the climactic onslaught. Ragnar led his forces directly against Paris. Clad in iron and leather, the Norsemen charged, shields interlocked. The city's defenders, beleaguered and desperate, manned the battlements, flinging stones and arrows into the advancing horde. Easter Sunday, 845, sealed the city's fate. Ragnar, having overpowered the defenders, convened before a trembling King Charles. The air crackled with tension as Charles capitulated, paying a tribute of 7,000 livres of silver to spare the city further devastation. The Vikings' withdrawal marked a sullen reprieve for Paris. As boats vanished down the Seine carrying their silver spoil, whispers of devastation echoed through the scattered ruins. Paris, scarred but standing, settled into uneasy peace, the trauma of Ragnar's siege lingering in the somber air. In the year 846, Ivar the Boneless, son of Ragnar Lothbrok, continued his relentless campaigns in the east of Mercia. With a carefully assembled fleet of 60 longships, Ivar pressed into the heart of Mercian lands, his warriors surging through defenseless villages, exacting tributes from terrified locals. By 847, the city of York, known to the Anglo-Saxons as Eoforwic, found itself under Viking control. Athelstan, an ambitious Viking chief, established a foothold within the ancient Roman walls, sending waves of fear across northern England as Norse rule began to solidify. The year 848 saw the Vikings strengthen their alliance with local Northumbrian factions. Hostile forces aligned, and in a surprising show of unity, Viking warriors aided King Osbert in his clashes against rival claimants, solidifying the Norse foothold through strategic allegiances. In 849, Viking settlers began issuing silver coins, bearing Norse motifs with inscriptions. These coins, designed by skilled Norse craftsmen in York, integrated Viking culture with the Anglo-Saxon economy, blending designs with the practicality of trade, signaling a shift in economic power. The spring of 850 saw a bold Viking expedition led by Bjorn Ironside to the Isle of Thanet, raiding settlements with alarming swiftness. The local earldom quickly capitulated, enriching the Norse coffers with plundered wealth, asserting Viking dominance further south. In late 850, The Viking-controlled territories of the Danelaw stretched from the streets of York to the southern reaches of East Anglia. Viking law and custom began to permeate the daily lives of its diverse inhabitants, forming a unique blend of cultures. In 851, a fleet of Viking longships, 50 strong, carved through the North Sea waves, landing with intent on the shores of southern England. Led by King Ethelwulf, the men of Kent readied defenses. The two armies clashed fiercely along the banks of the River Thames. Following their initial skirmishes in England, the Vikings regrouped under a coalition prominently featuring Norse chieftain Ivar the Boneless and his brothers. By 865, a formidable assembly of warriors, known as the Great Heathen Army, amassed in the Scandinavian hinterlands, readying for deeper incursions. Late 865, Ivar the Boneless led the Great Heathen Army across the North Sea to invade the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. As they advanced, the Viking forces moved swiftly, aiming to strike fear into the heart of England, targeting York, a significant stronghold. Determined to break Saxon rule, the Vikings laid siege to York on November 1, 865. The Anglo-Saxon defenses faltered under Viking assault, arrows arcing through the air. By sunset, the invaders breached the city walls amidst cries of battle and smoke rising from burning rooftops. As the Great Heathen Army entrenched themselves in York, news of their conquest spread rapidly across Europe. Within the captured walls, the Vikings fortified their hold, Ivar the Boneless solidifying control while eyeing further expansion. The Anglo-Saxon rulers faced a grave challenge ahead. In 871, on the morning of January 8th, the crack of dawn found King Ethelred and his brother Alfred racing across the frost-covered hills of Berkshire. A heavy fog clung to the earth as they prepared to face the Danes at Ashdown. Severed from his brother to the west, Alfred stood firm as the Danish forces, led by Bagsec and Halfdan, descended upon him. Arrows darkened the sky as the Saxons launched their defense amid the chaos of clashing shields and roars. By mid-morning, the thunderous sound of horns echoed across the battlefield as Ethelred emerged from a makeshift chapel, clasping a sword instead of his prayer book. The Saxons, reinvigorated, surged towards their foes, cutting through the Danish lines. As the sun reached its zenith, King Bagsec lay among the slain, marking the Danes' retreat to Reading. The Saxons claimed victory, their cheers lifting through the smoke-smeared, blood-stained fields, a sign of their newfound resolve. In 874, the Northmen struck back with ferocity, taking the Anglo-Saxon kingdom of Mercia. King Burgred was expelled as the Danes seized the town of Repton, transforming the church into a fortified stronghold. By 877, secure within their stronghold, the Great Heathen Army prepared for a renewed offensive. Viking ships, expertly crafted, dotted the English coast, their presence promising further campaigns and securing winter quarters. In 870, Norwegian chieftain Ingolfur Arnarsson's longship cut through icy seas. Relying on ravens for guidance, he ventured westward from Norway. As cloud-laden skies cleared, the looming shores of an untouched island came into view, marking the first sighting of Iceland. By 874, Ingolfur and a few followers landed their ships at Reykjavik's barren coast. Here, under the eerie glow of the northern lights, he cast his high chair pillars into the sea, pledging to settle where they washed ashore, symbolizing respect for fate and Norse tradition. As winter 875 descended, Ingolfur's settlers constructed turf longhouses. Using driftwood and stone, these sturdy abodes shielded them from Iceland's biting winds and frost. Inside, flickering hearth fires illuminated their careful preparations for the coming harsh, snow-cloaked months. In 878, the settlers cultivated fields by trapping and relocating wild sheep. Despite rocky soil and the ever-present threat of volcanic eruptions, they thrived by raising livestock, fishing, and gathering wild edibles along the coast, bolstering the new community's sustainability. By 880, the settlement had grown as other Scandinavians joined, drawn by tales of rich pasture and freedom from oppressive kingly rule. Ingolfr's leadership instilled unity and mutual respect among clans, laying groundwork for Iceland's nascent society, intertwined with survival and Norse beliefs. In 882, the ambitious Varangian chieftain Oleg seized control of Kiev, establishing a crucial stronghold for the Vikings in Eastern Europe. His forces sailed along the Dnieper River, taking advantage of the region's fragmented political landscape. By 885, Oleg's forces fortified their hold on Kiev, constructing defensive structures and forming alliances with local Slavic tribes. This consolidation of power enabled Oleg to command lucrative trade routes stretching from the Black Sea to the Baltic. In the winter of 887, Oleg advanced towards Smolensk and Lubech, leading a disciplined army of Norse and Slavic warriors. These conquests extended Viking influence further along the trade routes connecting northern Europe to Byzantium. By 890, after securing new territories, Oleg established a vibrant network of commerce and tribute, with goods like fur, wax, and slaves flowing through Kiev. This economic integration strengthened the settlement and enriched its controlling Norse elite. In 892, Oleg initiated diplomatic overtures towards Byzantium, sending envoys to Constantinople. His aim was to secure peace and trade agreements, reflecting the Vikings' growing ambition to influence regional politics beyond military might. By 895, the integration of Viking and Slavic cultures in these eastern regions was apparent. Norse craftsmanship intermingled with Slavic artistic motifs, symbolizing the evolving fusion of traditions amid a backdrop of stable governance. In 895, the Viking port of Hedeby witnessed activity as longships laden with furs, honey, and slaves arrived from the Kievan Rus. The trade route had become a vital artery connecting the Baltic to Constantinople and beyond, bridging cultures and opening new markets. By 896, a group of Norse merchants traversed the Volga River, reaching the markets of the Islamic Caliphate. They exchanged northern pelts for silver and spices, showcasing Viking prowess in far-reaching commerce and their adaptability in foreign lands. In 897, burgeoning connections between the Norse and the Abbasids saw the introduction of Arabic coins into Scandinavian domains. These coins became a status symbol, intricately embossed and highly prized among Viking leaders eager for exotic luxuries. Across the North Sea in 898, Viking longships reached York, a hub of Norse influence in England. Merchants bartered wine and woolen textiles from Frankish territories, further expanding the Vikings' trading networks and embedding them deeper into European commerce. In 899, the Scandinavian town of Ribe emerged as a significant trading post. Craftsmen honed their skills, creating intricate amber jewelry that appealed to diverse European markets. The town's reputation flourished, drawing traders from various regions, creating a cultural mosaic. As the decade concluded in 900, the Vikings' trading network extended from the icy fjords of Scandinavia to the distant sands of Baghdad. This economic prowess facilitated cultural exchanges that would reshape the regions they touched, marking an era of new possibilities. In the year 900, Norwegian chieftain Harald Hardrada, fresh from his triumphs, decisively consolidated control over southwestern Norway. His forces pushed deeper into the fjords, stamping out rebellion and unifying smaller clans under his banner, incentivizing loyalty with promises of fertile land as rewards for their service. In 900, the Danish ruler Sigfred, eager to expand his dominion, marshaled a fleet of longships to secure the vital trade routes of the Baltic Sea. These sea-thundering vessels, masterfully crafted, cut swiftly through the waters, asserting Danish influence over contested waterways. Meanwhile, in Hedeby, an essential trading position on the Jutland Peninsula, blacksmiths tirelessly hammered out weapons and tools, their anvils ringing day and night. The town's burgeoning prosperity attracted traders and craftsmen alike, filling streets with the clamor of commerce and ceaseless enterprise. Further south, in 900, Viking warrior bands traversed the uneven terrain toward Saxony. Their eyes on plunder and the spoils of war, they forged ahead, each step a sign of their relentless drive for conquest and expansion. Saxon settlements lay vulnerable before their organized might. Simultaneously, in Iceland, ardent settlers engaged in the Thingvellir Assembly, a governmental gathering, to discuss newfound territories and resolve disputes. At the Law Rock, Their voices echoed over the landscape, each ruling shaping the fledgling island community for the beginning of a unified Icelandic society. In the colder reaches of northern Sweden, reclusive Sami communities witnessed an influx of Norse farmers eager to cultivate the land. Meeting with resistance, these settlers negotiated trading deals, ensuring peaceful coexistence, bringing iron tools and textiles in exchange for furs hunted from the surrounding forests. In 911, a thick mist clung to the shores of northern France as Rollo, a towering figure of Norse descent, led his fleet of dragon-headed longships into the estuary of the Seine. Alongside his seasoned warriors, he prepared to challenge the Frankish lands governed by King Charles the Simple. Earlier that year, King Charles, weary of plundering raids that left towns ravaged, proposed a fateful treaty. Rollo, a figure known for his tactical acumen and ambition, was offered lands and titles in Normandy, causing a rift among his men over the moral implications of negotiating with the Franks. Spring of 911 saw Rollo's forces camping near the town of Rouen, preparing for possible combat. The clanging of swords and rhythmic chants echoed through the encampment. Warriors sharpened spears and adorned shields with intricate designs, symbolizing their resolve and readiness for the impending negotiation or conflict. In August 911, the Treaty of St. Clair-sur-Epte was formalized. Rollo swore fealty to Charles and agreed to protect the Seine from further Viking depredations. In return, he was granted a slice of territory that would morph into the powerful Duchy of Normandy. Both leaders understood the gravity of the new alliance. Not long after, Rollo solidified his commitment by marrying Gisela, a daughter of Charles. This union, intended to cement ties of loyalty, unfolded in a solemn ceremony that most Norsemen viewed with a mix of hope and skepticism. Rollo's foreign roots were palpable, yet his foresight held promise. As 911 closed, Rollo and his men settled into their newly acquired lands, forging a legacy amidst fertile valleys and settlements. Viking longhouses rose alongside Frankish stone structures, symbols of a burgeoning hybrid culture. This marked the beginning of a unique chapter in Normandy's storied history. In the year 912, Rollo and his men began the construction of new fortifications along the Seine River. Having secured the region through the Treaty of St. Clair-sur-Epte, they built wooden palisades and earthworks, ensuring protection and demonstrating their newfound authority. By 914, Rollo's leadership saw the emergence of a robust settlement around Rouen. Wooden halls rose amidst the growing settlement, while Norse craftsmen worked diligently, forging tools and weapons necessary for the defense and prosperity of their newfound lands. In 917, the relationship between the Normans and the Franks was tested. A skirmish erupted near the village of Chartres, when Rollo's men responded to a Frankish force encroaching on their territory, testing the resolve of both sides in maintaining the fragile peace. By 920, the integration of Viking and Frankish cultures was evident in the markets of Rouen. Norse traders exchanged furs and finely crafted jewelry for Frankish cloth and wine, creating a blend of cultures and strengthening local economies. In 922, Rollo's authority prompted nearby Frankish lords to seek alliances. At a council near the Seine, Rollo met with local leaders, negotiating terms and reinforcing diplomatic ties, essential for the continued stability of his domain. Come 925, Rollo strengthened his rule by designating his son, William Longsword, as his successor. This decision, made during a public assembly in Rouen, ensured leadership continuity, fostering long-term plans for the Norman foothold in northern France. By 926, Rollo witnessed a significant milestone, the birth of his grandson, Richard. As tensions rippled through France, this child represented a pure blend of Viking and Frankish blood. This symbol of unity solidified the amalgamation of cultures that Rollo had championed since his conversion to Christianity. In the frosty winter of 930, Viking fleets harbored at the heart of Rouen, strengthening Rollo's military leverage. Skilled shipwrights adjusted hulls and sails, merging Scandinavian naval prowess with Frankish innovations, fortifying defenses against turbulent waters and potential invaders. In 933, Rollo seized the opportunity amidst shifting political landscapes, expanding Normandy's borders to include the Cotentin and Avranchan regions. This strategic maneuver enhanced his dominion over the western coast, acting as a buffer against Breton warriors and extending the reach of his nascent duchy. Rollo's son, William Longsword, took on more responsibilities by 935, serving as a trusted leader following Rollo's teachings. William's charismatic diplomatic engagements with neighboring lords and his father's formidable legacy ensured Normandy's influence grew steadily and respected across Francia. The year 939 saw an unprecedented gathering in Normandy, a feast celebrating alliances. Rollo, aging yet authoritative, seated beside William, addressed Viking chieftains and Frankish nobles. Toasts resonated through the hall, underscoring newfound peace and solidifying ties among erstwhile foes. In 841, a Viking fleet led by Thorgest navigated the river Liffey, landing on a marshy area in present-day Dublin. Their longships, painted with vivid red and gold shields, bore the fierce dragon-headed prows, a symbol of their fearsome reputation miles across the sea. 873 saw Thorgest consolidate power in Dublin as local Gaelic tribes encountered the invaders. The Vikings, wielding their notorious broad-bladed axes and decorated shields, constructed earthen Fort Difflin, serving as a key stronghold by the riverbank where they traded goods, enslaved captives, and forged uneasy alliances. By 902, Gaelic chieftains rallied under Cerbal MacMurroch, king of Leinster, launching a fierce counterattack. Viking defenders clashed, shields and axes glinting under the overcast sky. Despite their prowess, the Norsemen faced setback, suffering heavy losses and temporary expulsion from their fortified settlement. In 914, revitalized Viking forces landed at Waterford, gradually surging back to the strategic port. With returning revenge endowed in their blades, these tides of warriors, clad in chainmail tunics, began laying down foundations for a new settlement, revealing their relentless tenacity despite previous defeats. The year 917 marked a turning point as the legendary Sihtric Ceis, son of Viking king Eymar, reclaimed Dublin, reconstructing Fort Difflin more robustly, fortifying it with wood palisades. By leveraging marital ties, Sihtric strengthened his grip on the city, intertwining his lineage with influential Gaelic dynasties. In 950, Dublin thrived as a commercial hub under the astute governance of Muirchertach mac Nael, close ally of the Norse elite. The Viking merchants haggled in markets while ships laden with wine, silver, and luxurious furs anchored at the port, signifying Dublin's prosperity and complex alliances. In the year 940, a formidable Viking fleet, led by the ambitious Norse chieftain Guthred, set sail from Scandinavian fjords, their dragon-headed ships slicing through icy waters towards southern Italy, their eyes fixed upon the rich coastal spoils. 943 saw the Viking warriors arrive at the shores of Salerno, a burgeoning Lombard duchy in southern Italy. Under the cover of night, they swiftly launched an attack. The clash of steel echoed through the moonlit streets as townspeople attempted a desperate defense. By 945, the Viking forces strengthened their foothold in the region by forming strategic alliances with the local Lombard nobles. These new alliances allowed for mutual raids on rival territories, bolstering the Norsemen's influence and wealth. In 947, emboldened by their previous successes, the Vikings pushed further inland towards Benevento, a key trade and political hub. The fierce ingenuity of the Norsemen was evident as they crafted innovative siege tactics to breach the city's stone defenses. In 949, reports of Viking incursions troubled the city of Naples. Prefect Gregory, determined to halt the northern tide, mobilized a coalition of local forces. Encamped outside the city, an intense standoff ensued, each side gauging the other's resolve for battle. In the year 950, Viking longships appeared off the coast of Lisbon. The sight of their menacing dragon-headed prows sent shivers through the defensive garrison. With disciplined coordination, the Viking warriors, draped in furs and iron armor, swiftly disembarked, ready for another campaign of raids and conquests. As the morning sun climbed higher, the Vikings, led by their chieftain Eric the Red, left a trail of fear along the Algarve coast. With axes and swords, they plundered villages, the cries of alarm echoing through the valleys. Eric's strategy capitalized on surprise, seizing supplies and livestock with ruthless efficiency. The seasoned blacksmith Helga forged weapons silently in Herjolfsness, Greenland, far from the chaos but crucial to its machinery. Her skillful hands crafted axes and spears with precision, each strike of her hammer echoing a clanging sonata, as her contributions armed the Nordic invaders, continuing their maritime adventures. On the waterways of the Seine, Viking traders met with French merchants under a tentative truce. Ravna, a shrewd Norse woman, negotiated the exchange of prized amber for precious Frankish wine. The vivid vibrancy of goods contrasted with the cautious, watchful eyes of both parties, revealing a moment of uneasy peace. Finally, in the deep forests of Scandinavia, a new generation trained tirelessly, maintaining ancient combat practices. Young warriors fought their shadows beneath towering pines, their breath visible in the cold air, their playful competitive banter masked their seasoned resolve. Nature witnessed the continuous cycle of warrior tradition. In the cold winter of 951, the Norwegian village of Gjøvik trembles as King Harald Bluetooth gathers his council. His bold decision to unite Scandinavian tribes under his rule begins at this icy assembly, a critical first step in his reign. By the summer of 953, the rugged coast of Jutland witnesses King Harald's fleet of longships departing. With dragon-headed prows slicing through the waves, Harald aims to fortify his alliances through strategic marriages and treaties with nearby Norse clans. In 954, the Isle of Finn views the aftermath of a fierce battle. King Harald's forces clashed with recalcitrant nobles, emerging victorious. Bloodied swords held high, his warriors demonstrate loyalty to the king's vision of a united Norway. As 956 dawns, the court of King Harald in Aarhus hosts a grand feast. Allied chieftains drink to their new alliance, solidifying bonds with feasting, storytelling, and oath-taking amidst flickering torchlight, the air filled with the scent of freshly roasted boar. In 957, at the holy site of Avaldsnes, Harald kneels before the ancient altar. His baptism under the eye of a Christian monk marks the start of Norway's gradual embrace of Christianity, a personal transformation met with skepticism and wonder. The summer of 958 sees the newly united Scandinavian fleet gathered at Skagerrak. Harald's vision manifests as ships from Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, their sails taut with wind, set forth as a formidable power in the northeastern seas. In the year 958, King Harald Bluetooth, newly christened, issues a decree from his stronghold in Jelling. His edict reverberates across Denmark, commanding the construction of churches to unify his realm under Christianity's banner, a faith adopted alongside his baptism. By 960, on the nearby island of Zealand, a small village witnesses its first baptism in icy waters. Led by monk Papo, the villagers cautiously approach the Christian rite, hesitant yet curious, marking a significant shift in local belief systems. In 962, far from ecclesiastical ceremonies, Norse adventurers under Eric the Red sail westward from Scandinavia, their longships cutting through the North Atlantic. They seek Greenland, driven by tales of arable land and rich pastures, undeterred by ice-choked seas. 963 sees artisans in Hedeby crafting intricate rune stones, each a sign of the Vikings' evolving identity. Reflecting Christian motifs rather than pagan, these stones signal a cultural transformation spreading through Scandinavian craftsmanship. In 968, Oslo, a vibrant trade hub in Norway, the marketplace hums with life as merchants exchange goods and stories. Among the tales, whispers of Christianity's rise in nearby kingdoms intrigue and concern both traders and elders. By 973, remnants of pagan traditions clash with new Christian doctrines in rural Sweden. Villages host midwinter celebrations blending both customs, garlanded with interwoven cross and hammer, signifying a community in transition. In 975, at Konghell's ancient ting in Norway, Harald convenes his earls. The land's partitioning as fiefs strengthens his control, yet beneath power's consolidation lies the restless murmur of old gods as Christianity binds new, uneasy loyalties. In the year 980, King Harald Bluetooth of Denmark, standing solemnly before the gelling stones, embraced Christianity, declaring it the new faith of his people. This decision was driven by political motives, ensuring alliances with Christian rulers in Europe. In 981, Olaf Tryggvason returned to Norway from his raids, influenced by Christian beliefs encountered abroad. Determined, he gathered followers including clerics from England and began converting Norwegians along the coastal regions. In 983, a fierce cold-gray storm battered the settlement of Gardar in Greenland. Eric the Red, despite the daunting weather, listened intently to Christian missionaries recounting stories from the Bible, their words sinking deep into his mind. By 985, Sigtuna in Sweden saw its first church completed, a modest wooden structure built secretly by craftsmen under the guidance of missionaries. Services were conducted in clandestine gatherings, as the region still largely adhered to Old Norse beliefs. The year 988 marked a critical negotiation at the Icelandic Althing involving chieftain Thorgeir Thorkelson. Torn between the old ways and Christianity, he vowed to decide on a single faith for the island. By sunset, he chose Christianity to quell division. In 990, Hjalti Skegjason, a noted Icelandic lawyer, stood at the law rock. His voice strong over murmuring crowds, he read aloud the conversion law, officially recognizing Christianity as Iceland's faith, marking a new chapter in its cultural transformation. In the spring of 990, in the burgeoning town of Roskilde, Denmark, dedicated craftsmen fitted stones with expert care. Bishops and masons labored closely as the foundations of a new church took form. It was a time of fervent building, as sacred structures emerged as focal points of evolving communities. On a chilly morning in 991, the villagers of Nidaros in what is now Trondheim, Norway, gathered. Swift-moving workers erected a timber frame for a small but solemn church. Around it, the community murmurs prayers, signs that Christianity was inexorably entwining with their daily life. In 992, Olof Konung, Sweden's first Christian king, observed the completion of a modest stone church in Huseby. His presence was a powerful symbol of the kingdom's shift. As he stepped forward, the metallic clang of his armory contrasted sharply against the tranquil proceedings inside the hallowed sanctuary. By 993, on the island of Gotland, perfumed smoke from censers mingled with the cool sea breeze. Islanders dressed in their fine clothes celebrated at the consecration of the Sankt Hans Church. A priest raised his hands skyward, as solemn hymns echoed through the wooden arches, melding ancient with nascent traditions. 994 witnessed merchants and pilgrims arriving steadily on the fjords of Stavanger, Norway. Beside the docks, hammers rang out from a nearby mound where a new church rapidly ascended. Its construction attracted folks from afar, blending economic vitality with spiritual endeavors. In June of 995, Olaf Tryggvason, a once fierce Viking, now a Christian king, made landfall near the town of Lade, Norway. His retinue moved swiftly, laying groundwork for the King Olav Church. Bolstering Norwegian faith proved paramount to solidify his rule after crowning himself in spring. In the year 995, not long after Olaf Tryggvason became king of Norway, he set about converting the Norse people to Christianity. The forceful consolidation began in Trondheim, where the old temple was dismantled, leading to grumbles and protests from ancient believers. Late in 995, Iceland's Althing convened in Thingvellir under the looming threat of division. Some, like law speaker Thorgeir Josvetnagodi, pondered the cultural sagas and sought compromise between old and new faiths, striving for unity amidst fiery debates. By 996, word reached Greenland of the sagas now imbued with Christian motifs. Old seafaring stories began interpreting their gods through a lens of monotheistic tales, blending mythologies and settlements across the icy landscape, as Eric the Red listened cautiously. In 997, Bishop Frederick of the British Isles preached throughout Nordic territories. As he traversed, many found themselves torn between ancestral gods and the new monotheistic message, stirring novel interpretations of their beloved sagas. Towards the close of 998, remarkable inscribed runestone carvings began to appear in Denmark. Ordered by King Sweyn Forkbeard, they commemorated warriors who accepted baptism, etching new Christian symbols beside runes, a public sign of evolving beliefs. In the year 999, as Iceland braced for another Althing at Thingvellir, law-speaker Thorgeir made a crucial decision to unite his people. Christianity would be adopted, but old customs quietly permitted, preserving unity while embracing change. By 1000, ships from Norway embarked towards Vinland's fabled shores. Sailors carried tales of old gods transposed through Christian stories, a new saga's chapter chanted above mingling sea winds and novel Christian prayers. In the year 1000, King Olaf Tryggvason of Norway faced a decisive confrontation at the Battle of Svolder. Allied fleets from Denmark, Sweden, and the Norwegian Earl of Lad trapped Olaf's ships in a narrow strait. Despite fervent resistance, Olaf leapt into the sea, marking his reign's tragic end. In Greenland, 1000 witnessed the Norse attempting to establish a foothold. Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, led a small crew to uncharted lands. They harvested grapes and timber, dubbing it Vinland. The discovery offered Norse expansion possibilities beyond the icy tundra. Simultaneously, in the British Isles, a new power balance emerged. King Sweyn Forkbeard of Denmark consolidated power, setting his sights beyond the seas. His intentions turned toward England, amid fractured alliances. Reports circulated signaling a potential invasion. In Iceland, the Althing at Thingvellir brought critical change. The Christianization of the island was decreed, bringing an end to the old pagan ways. Law speaker Thorgeir Josvetningagothi, after a day of profound deliberation and solitude, announced the decision under a somber twilight. Further east, the Svealand region witnessed a consolidation under King Olof Skötkonung. With a firm grip, Olof established the first known Swedish coin minting process in Sigtuna. It symbolized increased commerce and a need for standardized currency to support expanding trade. As the year 1000 drew to a close, Viking ships patrolled the North Sea from new territories. Their sails caught coastal winds, steering toward trade routes ripe for control. These maritime endeavors hinted at evolving priorities. Norse warriors eyed not just conquest, but commerce. In the year 1001, Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, ventured westward from Greenland, navigating the northern seas and arriving on unknown shores. His landing marked a Norse foothold in North America, in a place he called Vinland. Word of new lands stirred imaginations across Scandinavia. In 1003, King Sweyn Forkbeard of Denmark, seizing the moment, amassed a powerful fleet. He set sail towards England, intent on claiming the English crown. The fleet's movement signaled a new phase of Norse ambitions, solidifying their position as formidable maritime warriors. By 1006, Olaf Haraldsson, later known as Saint Olaf, sought to unify Norway under Christianity. He raided eastern England, gathering wealth and followers. Olaf's actions hinted at a transformative era for Norse culture, driven by both conquest and conversion. In 1013, Sweyn Forkbeard's relentless campaign bore fruit as he declared himself King of England. His triumph in London signified the apex of Viking influence in British lands. It was a moment of triumph for Scandinavian rulers over a significant European kingdom. In 1014, a fierce battle unfolded at Clontarf, near Dublin. High King Brian Boru of Ireland clashed with Norse Gaelic forces. Although Brian perished, the event signaled weakened Viking power in Ireland, showcasing intense resistance from local clans. On Good Friday, April 23, 1014, the Battle of Clontarf erupted. Brian Boru, High King of Ireland, led his forces against the alliance of Vikings and Irish. The fields near Dublin transformed into a chaotic battleground, with over 7,000 warriors engaged in brutal hand-to-hand combat under ominous clouds. Amidst the chaos, Viking warrior Brodir, clad in chainmail, led a merciless attack against the Irish lines. His fearsome reputation preceded him, wielding an axe that felled many. Shouts and clashing iron echoed as the violin broke through the heart of Boru's forces, sowing fear and devastation. Seeing their lines faltering, Brian Boru's son, Murchad, took command. Rallying the Irish warriors with a fervent call, he launched a fierce counterattack. The fighting grew more desperate as the day waned, with neither side able to claim clear dominance on the blood-soaked earth. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a turning point came. Viking leader Sigurd the Stout, clutching his iconic raven banner, was surrounded and slain. His death marked a slump in Viking morale, giving the Irish forces a crucial advantage with renewed hope coursing through their ranks. Yet victory was bittersweet. As the battle ended, Brian Boru was ambushed in his tent by Brodir and slain before he could witness Irish triumph. The somber news of Boru's death echoed, casting a shadow over the hard-fought victory and altering the tide of power in Ireland. In 1010-15, as Ireland reeled from Clontarf's aftermath, Viking influence waned. With their unchecked might curtailed, the remaining Norse sought new alliances while consolidating control over coastal settlements. The Irish seized the moment as Norse expansion begrudgingly ceased, and a fragile peace found its roots. By 1020, marked changes were evident. The fractious Norse presence dimmed, the remaining strongholds opted for trading over raiding. Dublin emerged as a hub vital to maritime commerce. A blend of Irish customs and Viking resilience forged a new societal fabric, interwoven yet distinct. In 1020, Denmark saw the reign of Canute the Great extend its influence beyond Scandinavian shores. Canute skillfully balanced Christianity's rise and pagan traditions to consolidate power, securing a maritime northern empire stretching to the English shores. By 1026, Sweden faced internal strife. King Anand Jacob, vying for influence, clashed with Knut. Yet the Battle of Helgeo, with its strategic riverside ambush, showcased Anand's resilience, ultimately preserving Sweden's autonomy despite Knut's pressure. In Norway, Harald Hardrada, future Hard ruler, began his military advent in 1030. Battle at Stiklestad saw young Haraldr witness King Olaf's fall, sparks flying as swords clashed. It planted the seed for a generation seeking revenge and leadership roles. By 1035, Knut's reign faltered. Knut's son, Harthacnut, inherited the throne post his father's demise, but struggled to hold the fragmented northern empire together as dissent rose among territories keen for independence and stability. Moving forward to 1042, Norway crowned Magnus the Good to repulse Danish threats. The monumental accord with Harthacnut stabilized the region, exchanging claims on Denmark in event of an untimely demise, showcasing diplomacy amidst the warring. By 1046, the diplomatic tides shifted once more. Olaf the Quiet, Harthacnut's nephew, elevated his ambitions. Rivalries festered with Magnus, ultimately leading Olaf to co-rule, their uneasy partnership driven by political necessity rather than brotherhood. The echoes of 1050 saw Harald Hardrada return, fresh from Byzantine alleys. An assertive claim to Norway came with charismatic fervor, evoking memories of earlier blood-soaked victories, now vying for a singular reign, despite Norway's fragile dual monarchy. In 1050, King Svein II Estridsson of Denmark vainly attempted to reclaim Danish rule over England, sending expeditions that failed amid storms and fierce Saxon resistance led by Edward the Confessor. Scandinavia's ambitions hit against the solidifying fortunes of English defense. Harald Hardrada's leadership in Norway from 1050 onward fortified his regime through strategic military engagements across northern Europe and wise alliances, yet revenge drove his desires as he withheld aspirations for the English crown unfulfilled by the Danish. His gaze remained cast towards untapped opportunities overseas. In 1055 saw the Norwegian King Harald decimate raiders threatening Norway's shores. His fleet, numbered impressive yet disciplined, showed the might of a seasoned warrior king. Shield walls held firm as adversaries faltered, retreating to less harrowing waters of Ireland and Scotland. In 1062, the Battle of Nisu ensued, pitting Harald Hardrada against King Svein II of Denmark. The clash saw brutal waves of skirmishes on both sides, resulting in a tactical victory for Harald despite the heavy toll of blood and treasure, ensuring tenuous peace but brewing future conflict. With 1066 marking the fateful year, Harald Hardrada assembled formidable forces, setting sail from Norway to pursue his claim to the English throne. Confidence soared among his troops as they glided across the North Sea under pristine skies. Little did they know of the grim fate awaiting them at Stamford Bridge. September 25, 1066, saw the calamitous Battle of Stamford Bridge. Harald Hardrada, felled by a swift English response led by Harold Godwinson, ended mega ambitions. His death marked the decline of Viking dominance, as Norse bravery clashed fatally with Saxon steel. October 14, 1066. Under a chilling autumn sky on the fields near Hastings, William, Duke of Normandy, prepares for battle. Arrayed before him are thousands of Norman knights, ready to seize the English throne. Standing firm against them, King Harold Godwinson commands the weary Anglo-Saxon infantry, forged from Stamford Bridge's trials. As dawn breaks, the Norman forces charge relentlessly. English shields form an impenetrable wall, backs pressed against the slopes of Senlac Hill. Arrows rain and swords clash, echoing the ferocity of years past, when Danish invaders tested their mettle against English resolve. Midday drifts into chaos as Norman cavalry feigns retreat, luring unseasoned Saxon fighters down the hill. Seeing the English lines break formation, William orders a renewed assault. Mounted knights gallop back, turning deceit into devastation for Harold's unorganized troops clambering the grassy slopes. Dusk casts a golden hue over the battlefield, strewn with the fallen. Among them lies Harold, struck by an arrow said to have pierced his eye, a fateful wound that ends his reign. The ground soaked with bravery, echoes of cries fade with the setting sun. Night encloses Hastings, the Normans victorious. William claims victory, thus earning the moniker, the Conqueror. The planet year now under the Normans casts a new shadow over a land accustomed to Viking raids. William's flag unfurls, a new chapter dawns for England's line of rulers. On the morning of October 14, 1066, near Hastings, Harold Godwinson, the King of England, surveys the landscape from atop Senlac Hill. His eyes rest on the shield wall of his weary Saxon soldiers holding firm against the advancing Normans. Exhaustion etches their faces after a grueling year of battles. As afternoon approaches, William, Duke of Normandy, orchestrates his forces with meticulous precision. Knights on horseback, adorned in chainmail and carrying the blue and gold Norman banner, maneuver through the muddy field seeking gaps in Saxon lines. The tension on the battlefield is palpable. By late afternoon, as the sun dips westward, the vaunted Saxon shield wall finally buckles. Norman knights breach the defensive line, clashing with desperate Saxons. Amidst the chaos, Harold stands defiant, wielding his axe with ferocity, his face marked by determination and fatigue. In the waning light, a Norman archer takes aim from a distance. The arrow arcs through the air, striking Harold in the eye. The king falls, clutching his wound, a defining moment witnessed by both sides. Confusion and disarray ripple through the English ranks. Night descends as the battle reaches its bloody conclusion. The English forces scatter, leaderless and disheartened, into the dark forest beyond. The Normans set camp on the field, their victory at Hastings marking the end of Saxon rule. Shadows envelop the conquered terrain. In November, William secures support from the remaining English nobility. On Christmas Day, he stands in Westminster Abbey, crowned as King of England. The ceremony is both solemn and grand. Norman knights and English lords gather, ushering a new era under the high arches of stone and mortar. In 1067, Northern Europe witnesses the emergence of a new Viking leader, Sweyn II of Denmark. Amidst the echoes of swords and the scent of brine, he consolidates power with ambivalence, eyeing England with calculated interest. 1070 sees Harald Hardrada's naval contingent dock at Orkney, Norway, transitioning from raids to settled life. The Norse influence pervades, leaving the clatter of swords for the rhythm of sheep shears and seaweed. In 1075, Danish negotiations echo within the halls of Rouen Cathedral as Sweyn II, striving for peace, seals an alliance with William of Normandy. The accord secures relative tranquility, curtailing raids on Frankish coasts. 1082, the year brings wind-steered ships to Dublin's port, filled with traders from Roskilde. Fishing nets glisten with scales as Norse-Danish cargo passes through eager hands, fueling mercantile exchange in the Viking enclave. In 1090, Brittany's shores witness Magnus Barefoot's warriors disembarking with vigor. The clang of yet unsheathed swords echoes in the misty dawn as they reinforce Norse presence, fortifying relationships with local lords for future campaigns. By 1096, Scandinavian craftsmanship blooms with ornate weapons crafted in Uppsala as Thorgrim's smithy clinks with activity. Innovative designs, including crossguards on spears and swords, improve combat versatility, hinting at upcoming Viking advancements. On 1100 witnesses the dawn of new Viking exploitative ambition as Sigurd I embarks from Norway, sails unfurled and spirits high. His fleet slices through dawn seas, embarking on a crusade that foretells new horizons beyond familiar Scandinavian waters. In 1103, Sigurd I of Norway embarks on the crusade to Jerusalem, leading part of his fleet across treacherous Byzantine waters, merging Viking seafaring prowess with the fervor of religious quests. By 1107, the monastery at Clonmacnoise in Ireland integrates intricate Norse designs into its stone carvings. Artisans carve dragons and knot patterns, melding Celtic narratives with Norse mythology. In 1115, Danish merchants arrive in Constantinople, their ships laden with furs and silver. They establish trading links with the Byzantine Empire, exchanging Nordic treasures for silk and spices. 124 witnesses, a marriage union solidified between Sweyn Estridson's line and the Norman Duke of Bedford, entwining Viking ancestral lines with the mix of English nobility to fortify political alliances. In 1136, Norse poetry flourishes in Iceland, the sagas recounting heroic exploits and ancestral legends, preserving Viking culture and history through oral tradition, eventually scribed with meticulous artistry. By 1148, the Viking axe is revered not just as a weapon, but as a tool of artistry, with finely adorned hilts and inlay designs, reflecting the cultural evolution and sophistication of Scandinavian craftsmanship. In 1152, King Sigurd II of Norway establishes an annual trade assembly at Bergen. Merchants from across Scandinavia and beyond gather to exchange furs, walrus ivory, and falcons. This strengthens economic ties and enriches local coffers. By 1159, Gotland emerges as a key trading hub in the Baltic Sea. Heavily laden cargo ships dock, carrying amber to trade for Western silver coins. Intricate stone crosses rise, marking prosperity driven by new trade routes. In 1167, Erik the Good's descendants introduce advanced shipbuilding techniques in Roskilde, Denmark, creating sleeker longships. These vessels enable safer, long-distance voyages, connecting Viking trade routes to the burgeoning markets of Europe. Responding to expanding trade routes, in 1175, a powerful alliance between Swedish traders and the Hanseatic League forms. This union facilitates exchange of Swedish iron and Baltic timber for luxury textiles and spices from the east. In 1183, Trondheim sees the introduction of the first cod trading post. Fishermen's sails dot the fjord as salted cod is prepared for exchange, reaching as far as the Mediterranean. This trade elevates local economies and sustains communities. By 1196, the network of Scandinavian trade has extended to the British Isles, with Dublin becoming a major focal point. The city grows vibrant with the blending of Norse and Celtic goods, people, and traditions. In the final year of the century, 1200, the Cistercian monks in Norway adopt advanced brewing techniques learned from Flanders, supplying the Viking trade network with high-quality ale. This new commodity finds eager drinkers across trade routes. In 1201, in the heart of Iceland, the influential chieftain Snorri Sturluson seeks to preserve the Norse sagas. He meticulously transcribes ancient stories, ensuring the myths of gods like Odin and Thor endure. His diligence sparks a resurgence of interest in Norse mythology among Icelandic scholars. By 1218, in Norway, King Håkon IV orders the construction of stave churches incorporating Norse symbols. Builders carve intricate dragon heads and pagan motifs, blending Christian and Norse elements. These structures stand as a sign of the lingering influence of Norse beliefs within Christian communities. In 1230, Swedish bards gather in the court of Birger Jarl recounting heroic sagas and mythical tales. The rhythmic chants and melodic rhymes resonate through the halls, captivating the audience. This oral tradition, deeply rooted in Norse culture, continues to thrive amidst growing political consolidation. A scholarly circle forms in 1241 at the monastery of Þingeyrar in Iceland, where monks begin compiling an extensive collection of Norse poetry. Their efforts result in documentations like the Poetic Edda, which provide invaluable insights into ancient Scandinavian beliefs and customs. By 1249, Norse mythology finds expression in the arts in Denmark. Sculptors carve depictions of Yggdrasil, the world tree, onto stone markers. These public artworks celebrate the Old Faith, intertwining Viking lore with contemporary Danish cultural identity. In 1258, Magnus VI of Norway, known as Magnus the Lawmender, convenes a meeting in Bergen. He gathers chieftains and legal experts to draft the Landslov, a unified legal code consolidating Norway's medieval laws, emphasizing peace and justice. In 1261, Iceland comes under the Norwegian crown through the Old Covenant. The Alþingi in Thingvellir gathers and agrees to submit to Håkon IV, marking the end of Iceland's independent chieftain-based government. By 1274, in Denmark, King Erik v Klipping issues the Vordingborg Charter at Vordingborg Castle, which strengthens royal power by defining the duties of the nobility, reflecting an evolution from Norse warrior culture to a more centralized monarchical governance. In 1277, amid political tension, Swedish nobles rally around Magnus III Lodulås at the Arboga meeting. Under Magnus's lead, they establish a protocol diminishing noble privileges, asserting the monarch's will over ancient Norse traditions of independent rule. In 1290, the art of weaponsmithing evolves as the Swedish master blacksmiths, drawing from ancestral Viking methods, develop swords with crossguards and high-carbon steel blades, making them more efficient for emerging medieval warfare tactics. In 1293, Finnish territories buckle under Swedish influence as Birger Jarl's successor, Torkel Knutsson, leads military expeditions, culminating in the founding of Viborg Castle, cementing Sweden's lasting influence and incorporating the Viking spirit of expansion. In the year 1300, Trondheim Cathedral stands tall, its Gothic arches a sign of Norway's embrace of Christianity, once rivaling Viking pagan worship. Stonemasons craft intricate designs, merging Norse motifs with religious iconography, symbolizing a cultural confluence where warrior past meets ecclesiastical present. 1300 sees Bergen's fishermen navigate rough Scandinavian waters, employing knowledge passed down generations. Wooden longboats carry salted fish, a staple export sustaining local economies. The rhythmic rowing of oarscoris blends with the calls of seabirds as trade routes expand between Norway and the British Isles. In 1300, on a cobblestone street in Stockholm, with life, local traders exchange Swedish ironwork for Hanseatic goods. Hammers on anvils ring through the air. The sounds attest to Sweden's burgeoning blacksmithing prowess, as that of Viking ancestors evolves through trade and innovation. Throughout Scandinavian villages in 1300, children gather in the early evening around storytellers who narrate sagas of Viking explorers. These tales of seafaring adventures and legendary warriors captivate young minds, ensuring the ethos of Norse heritage persists within the social fabric despite changing times.